Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and we have with us today attorney Juneitha Shambee. She owns her own practice, and we've had her on the show before, and she brought a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom, a lot of expertise, knowledge into how the courtroom actually works, and especially dealing with the racial climate that we're in right now. As many of you know, the decision, the outcome for Breonna Taylor was, I can't really say it was shocking. I mean, we've gotten used to these outcomes. The question is, how are they coming to this decision legally? So, you know, we're fighting for those transcripts from that grand jury. Like, what did Daniel Cameron, what was presented to this grand jury that they came out with, the decision that they came out with, where there was one indictment and it wasn't for the murder. It wasn't for what actually happened. So therefore there was no justice for Breonna Taylor, as if she was nothing. Her life was nothing. So welcome to the show, Juneitha. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Malika. Yeah, this decision, like you said, we weren't surprised. It's almost like we hope for the best, we prepare for the worst type of situation. And it just doesn't seem fair of how they came along with this decision.
How does that work? I'm not an attorney. I've been to court to support friends. I've been to traffic court for myself, but that's about it.
Right.
I'm like, how in the world? What could have been presented to the grand jury?
So I was doing some research on this case because it was a shocker to me as well. So first of all, how it works with grand juries is that the defense is not present. Only the prosecutor is there. The prosecutor will put forth their evidence to show that there's enough probable cause for this case to move forward. Okay, so they're the only ones that's putting on evidence with their witness. From some of the information that I read, it looked as though the evidence that was put forth by the AG Cameron it stated that the officers actually did knock. They said they knocked, and that to present the warrant, Officer Mattingly was the first one. Mattingly was the first to enter to the home. He said at the end of the hall, he saw a male and a female standing there. So even with the evidence that was presented, I know it's always been going around that she was shot, killed in her sleep. But according to the evidence that was put on in front of the grand jury, it's stating that she was, or is assuming that she was woke. Okay, and then as he knocked, announced himself, there was a male standing there with a gun in a shooting stance, and he made the first shot, and then the officers returned fire. The reason that Officer Hankinson was indicted was for the simple fact, according to the evidence that was put forth, he was standing outside the apartment. And when he heard the gunshots, he just started to shoot wildly. He had 10 shots that go off. And that's when like 3 of those shots actually went into a neighbor's home where there was a pregnant female and a child. And so that's what he was indicted on. And that's the evidence that was put forth. There said to be many witnesses that came forth to say that there was no knock given. But there was one witness that AG Cameron relied on to say that there actually was a knock. And so one against many, I guess, I don't know how that hand stands up and how they weigh that, but that's what was put forth to the grand jury, and that's the reason this decision was made the way it was made.
So her boyfriend, I believe his name is Keith
Kenneth
Walker.
Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
Correct.
He was obviously shooting in self-defense because the initial stories that we heard, his report and the reports before what was given to the grand jury, was that the police were trying to break in to their apartment. And usually people that get a registered gun, that's the perfect time to use the gun. If somebody is clearly trying to break down your door, you're not expecting guests. They were, from his story, they were in bed, but then they got up because they heard someone trying to break in. And quite naturally, you own a gun, you're gonna go get your gun.
Exactly.
Protect your home, protect your woman.
Exactly.
Your home. So I guess none of that was presented? None of that was
well, see, what they said was that the jury based this decision on the fact that Mr. Walker admitted to shooting first. I don't know that any of the events that led up to him shooting first was actually presented, because, and again, that's going to be with us getting the transcripts and those becoming transparent. But yeah, I don't know that that was presented in order to give them an idea of what was going on. There's so many versions of the story out there that is, you know, it's hard to really get to the truth without having that transparency. And right now, I don't think that we have that.
Right, right. All we know is for sure, both sides, is Brianna did not have a weapon.
Correct.
She did not shoot.
Correct.
She received majority of the gun wounds.
It was about 5 to 6 shots, with the last one being from Cosgrove being the fatal one, according to ballistics report.
And Kenneth Walker, was he shot?
There's no reports to say that he was actually shot.
So he's the one with the gun. He's the one that's shooting to protect his home.
Right.
And she
Legally.
Legally.
Yeah, legally.
I mean, anybody, if somebody's breaking into your home, you're not going to wait for them to actually get in and do something and then shoot them.
Right, and then you have to also understand, even if he saw them, remember, they were plainclothes officers. They didn't have on a uniform, so he still didn't know who was coming into his home.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So let's just say if this was vice versa, if Kenneth and Brianna were white.
We already know what the ending would have been. Exactly. Exactly.
Like he was just protecting his home, his woman, his family.
Exactly. Well, see, here's one of the things that people aren't talking about. The officers that actually entered Miss Taylor's home, they were the execution team. A warrant was not execution as in like kill execution, but they were the team to execute the warrant.
Okay.
And they weren't the ones who actually went and requested the warrant. Okay, so they were given an address to actually go and execute a warrant. Problem is, the warrant was made on false evidence. It was made on a false affidavit by the officers who actually went to the judge to sign the warrant. The story is that they were given information. This other team of officers were given information by the postmaster stating that, you know, there's a lot of drug activity at that address. It later came out, the postmaster said, I didn't say anything like that. That was never said to the officers. But based on that affidavit, that was presented to the judge, and then the judge signed the warrant for that actual home. And according to Cameron, they were told, and they actually did knock and announce themselves. But according to other reports, it was a no-knock warrant, which I I personally don't believe there's any reason for a no-knock warrant. The policy behind it is to preserve evidence and also to ensure safety for the officers and for others. When I think it actually worked in the reverse, because if you just ram into someone's home, you excite them, you scare them, and as we see in this case, they tend to feel the need to defend themselves, which put the officers more at risk than if they were to knock and announce themselves. So I fully support to ban the no-knock warrants. The policies behind them are erroneous, and it causes situations where innocent bystanders are killed for no reason. And also, I feel like the other officers who went to actually obtain the warrant, they should be the ones that's held accountable. But we're not hearing that. We're not hearing anything about them or what they're doing. They're still working. They still have their job, and they're going along with it.
So, can the family go after those officers? It seems like there's multiple lawsuits that can take place here.
Well, they've already had a civil case in this, and that. They settled for the 12 million, which I also think is atrocious, to value her life at only $12 million. So they may run into a preclusion issue to say that this has already been handled, that all defendants should have already been brought forth, and because it's all happened under the same circumstances. And again, it will be against also the city of Louisville, and so by them being a party, I would think it would encumber. I mean, it would include all of that.
So those police officers at this point will not be fired, will not be charged with anything.
I can't say what they're going to do internally with the police officers. At this point, there's been no word on whether or not those officers have been disciplined or they've been held accountable for their part that they played in this. Of course, you're not hearing about that in the media, but I can't say what's going to happen internally. I feel as though something should happen, that they should be let go. They should be investigated as well. And this should definitely, there should be some light shed on their actions in this case.
So those are just the police officers dealing the warrant.
Correct.
We're not even dealing the police officers who actually did the shooting. So this is just, it's, oh my Lord, it's just too much. It's just too much for—
There's a lot that goes into it, yeah.
For there to be no justice at all with all of that, from the warrant to the actual breaking in and shooting and killing, no justice anywhere.
Well, how the evidence was presented to the grand jury, I can understand the decision that they came to.
Because of what was presented to them.
Exactly. They themselves didn't go out and do the grand jury members didn't go out and do the investigation or anything like that. That's on the AG to have all of that at his fingertips to fully investigate in order to bring that evidence to the grand jury. And if we are to believe what he said, then he only presented what he had based on the investigation. Now, could he have held some things back? Oh, sure. It's done all the time. I don't know if there's any truth to him being the grandson-in-law of Mitch McConnell, but it could, in some other sense, he could have done what he done for some sort of political move, as we see that he's been added to the list for the Supreme Court justice, and I think that all of that plays into it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all of that definitely plays into it.
Oh my God, we cannot have him on there. Oh my
No,
God. We already had to deal
no.
with Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, yeah. Now we'll just have a younger one.
God, help us. God, please, please.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's all we can. That's all we can really hope for. As far as what he's facing, Officer Hankinson, this is in. First of all, this is completely unique to Kentucky. This law on wanton endangerment
Mhm.
in the first degree, and what he's facing is a range from 1 to 5 years, which can be served consecutively, which means that it's going to be done back to back to back. Depends on whether or not he will actually be convicted convicted of any of these crimes. What I will be surprised is if he's not acquitted. It's like they give us enough, they try to give us enough to quiet us, and then still underhandedly they, you know, work their magic for their cause. We just have to be diligent. You know, have to be diligent about raising our voice and speaking out against it. And that's all we can do at this point. Remember, we're in a season of voting. This is an elected official, elected position for the AG of Kentucky. And so the sheriff as well. So that's the reason it's so important for us to get out there and vote, because we need to do our own diligence and investigation on who's running for these political offices in order to protect our interests.
You think people saw that coming from him? I mean, does he have a reputation? This is my first of like learning of him. Does he have a reputation for not being fair and just to the Black community? Is this a pattern for him, or?
I didn't see anywhere that it's the pattern. There was, we could have probably saw this from him, because when this was noted about almost 200 days ago, you know, there was pressure being put on him to actually bring charges against them, right? And this is around, he's newly married, so this is around a time where he was getting married and he was just focusing on his wedding when this had happened. And a lot of people, you know, put that pressure to say, like, look, this should have already happened. You should have already investigated what's going on, what's taking so long. And it seemed as more pressure got on him, then you started to hear more about he is looking into it, it's being investigated, and these things. One thing we also have to ask, and not that I support what he's done or anything like that, but another thing that we have to ask is whether or not he's also being put on a pedestal because the color of his skin. You know, there are a lot of AGs that make certain decisions in cases throughout the U.S. And how many of those AGs have you actually seen their face?
Interesting. That is interesting. Well, we know ours.
Exactly.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just some things that you kind of have to look at too. Like, what is the media playing at? What are people playing at? You know, it's a vicious game. It's a vicious cycle.
So yeah, okay. So put the heat on him. Put all the heat on him. Put all the heat on him. And yeah, I'm curious to know if he's if he's being played and he knows he's being played, but he's going along with the play, or if he just really got a thing about his own people. No value, no respect.
And I think that's going to come to light fairly soon. Yeah. No one's going to let up on this. This is not going to go away soon. At least I hope it doesn't go away soon.
I was just watching the press conference in Louisville, and yeah, I don't think it's going to go away soon.
Yeah, no, it won't. It definitely won't. And I mean, it's lasted this long, and because of this decision, I believe it's gonna last for much longer. It was injustice on both sides, criminally and civilly. You know, well, on the civil side, she was only awarded $12 million. Her family was awarded $12 million. To value a Black life at $12 million. When on the other hand, you had another white woman that was shot by a Black officer, and she got upwards of $50 million. You know, part of that was to go towards some sort of funds, but it was a significant amount of much more money than what's been awarded to Miss Taylor's family. And that's just the sad part about it. I don't think that it could have been yelled louder or much clearer of how unjust the justice system is. And we as attorneys, many of us try to even the odds sometimes, but sometimes our hands are tied too, and we feel the pain, we feel the injustice when we know what we're doing is right, but yet we have a system that continues to work against us. You know, there's only so much we can do, which is why it's so important for us to tell people to get out there and know who's making your laws, know who's making decisions for you in life, and make sure that they are working in your best interest. You know, that's the reason I do what I do. I work hard in this system just to make sure that my clients understand what's going on, to protect their rights, and to make sure that other rights are protected. It's sad, you know, we have the justice is blind system, but we see that it isn't. Our system sees colored, and that's unfortunate.
Now, the last time you were here, you and I were talking about that because I was asking you, how do you deal with it? It's like boxing a mountain. So you already know what you're up against before you go into that courtroom for your client to fight for your client. You already know the hate and the evil that you're up against, the wheeling and the dealing behind the table. And it's like I have so much respect for you because I would lose it. I would snap.
It takes a special kind of patience. It does. It takes a special kind of patience to deal with what we deal with in this system. But you have to love what you do in order to continue to do it. If you don't love what you do, it will take you down quickly and hard, you know? And so I have to put my clients ahead of how I feel, you know, on any particular day. I have to think about, well, what better serves them? And that's what I do. And that's how I get through it. And I believe a lot of my colleagues, they do the same because they can't stand the injustice that we see in this system. It's amazing, actually. But we can only control so much.
If Breonna Taylor's mom was your client and this $12 million is written on a piece, I don't know how it's done. You know, I'm just thinking like in the movies, they write the 12 million down on a piece of paper and slide across the table. You know, what would you have said as her representation?
Well, of course, I have to tell her the decision is up to her, but I will also list out I will list out the value, and I will list out different settlements that were given. But I will also tell her about the ramifications of trying to go to trial, and what that can hold, and just make sure that I inform her fully on what it is that she can fight for. You can either take that, or you can go in principle and fight for more, because you know her value. She's much more valuable than this. She was an EMT worker, working hard, you know, doing everything that we're supposed to do. And still, she was shot down and killed in her home in the middle of the night. And then for what the officers say after, it's like they have no remorse, even if they weren't at fault, right? Even if it shows that, you can at least show the common decency to understand that you cut someone's life short, and feel some sort of human decency for that, instead of, I don't know, whatever your PR team is telling you to say. Before I'm an attorney, I'm a human. Before you're an officer, you're a human. Which side, when all of this is done, we're going to be humans before we are our jobs, our careers, our occupations. And how do you want to be known? You know, and that's what you have to think about. But unfortunately, they make lewd statements or just unfair comments about, oh, well, I was right, so whatever. It was justified in killing her, which is essentially what you're saying.
Well, they say they had said in the protest today, the press conference with her attorney and the family, and Jacob Blake's dad came and spoke, and Tamika Mallory brought up that I guess this is September 20. What day was the indictment given? Was it day before yesterday?
The day before yesterday.
Yesterday was the same date that Emmett Till's murderers were acquitted.
Yeah.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That was deep.
It was. I saw that.
So that lets you know nothing's really changed.
No, and not at all. Not at all. We see we're in the same loop that we've been in for hundreds of years. And it's just, we have to figure out where to get off, you know, in order to go into a linear direction. And we have people in power that can do that, but unfortunately, they're not using their platform to do things like that, such as A.G. Cameron, such as a lot of the AGs. Let's not just put it on him. A lot of the AGs that helped make this decision. A lot of the state prosecutors, you know, they have the opportunity to create some semblance of fairness in a system, but they choose not to. Not all of them are bad, but we do have a fair amount that should reevaluate their values.
Goodness gracious. I mean, we deal with things like that here at a local level too. Racism is just, it is such a beast, it is such a monster. And the Black political leaders, it's like I feel for them, because that's so much pressure. It is so much pressure, and you know they want to do right, but sometimes they're up against that beast, that monster. And it's a game. And it's a game.
And sometimes it's a choice between the greater good and themselves. And a lot of time people choose themselves over the greater good. You know.
Interesting. Well, you know, I think a lot of people are feeling powerless right now. You know, they're just up against that beast, that mountain, that monster. And I mean, years later, Emmett Till, here we are with Breonna Taylor, and it's the same thing. It's the same.
And so what I say to people is that you have to educate yourselves. And not by social media. Social media will not educate you. You have to really sit down and read and research and educate yourselves on what your rights are, what officers can do, what the system can do, how the system works. There are many times that some attorneys, they hold community halls in your community to give an idea of what the system is like and how you can get through it. And they'll do it for free. So look for things like that. Look for ways to come out, and if you hear an attorney is speaking, look for a way to come out and listen in on it, just so you're more informed. You understand how you can go about your daily life in an era like this. That's really important. And so I hope people will do that and take advantage of the resources that are around them in order to fully understand what's going on and better be able to comprehend.
But I definitely agree with that. But does it matter sometimes when you know your rights? I think a lot of people do know their rights when they're out there, and they still either end up handcuffed or dead.
Well, and that's the problem. Sometimes it does matter because it will control your actions, as opposed to, you can't control other people's actions, unfortunately. You just can't. But at least you would know how to go about it, and in order to, you want to live to fight another day, And so if you understand that, and if you actually, it doesn't happen in every case. I'm not going to say that, oh yeah, every time you know your rights and you assert your rights that you're going to be well off. No, I'm not saying that at all, because we know that's not the case. But in some cases, we do, if you do know the procedure and you have a better way of conducting yourself, and then you can present your evidence in court later on. Yes, we don't have the same advantages as our counterparts, unfortunately. We have to live to a higher standard. We have to be more cautious. We have to watch what we say, watch what we do, watch what we wear, watch what we eat. We have to do all of that, watch the way that we do all these things and how we respond to people. When our counterparts, they don't have that problem. They speak up.
Yes.
But
I actually encountered a situation, I can't mention names in this, but I was physically assaulted by a white person in Evanston, very popular white person here in Evanston, what many consider a leader and has done a lot for the Black community, has written a lot of checks. And this person physically assaulted me with witnesses. And this one Black leader, I won't say her name either, because I don't want to put people on the spot, but she ran over to make sure that I didn't strike her back, because she said, you will go to jail. You will be the one, even though there's witnesses, you will be the one to go to jail. And I actually reached out to a police officer to ask, what would happen in this situation? And that police officer pretty much told me, you better off trying to make friends.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, right? We're supposed to have a right to defend ourselves, but we don't.
I have no value. I'm a Black woman. I did nothing wrong to this person. I didn't deserve that.
And unfortunately, it is happening to leaders in a community as well. Mm-hmm. We have to walk around on eggshells, and it's unfortunate that we have to teach and tell people that when, their question, rightly so, well, I'm just as valuable as that person. That person did it and got away with it. Why would you turn around and penalize me for it? Valid question. But unfortunately, we know what day and era we're living in.
Has the era ever been different?
Sorry?
Has the era ever been different?
No, I was just going to say that. It's a new year, same circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, if you know how it's going to go down, yes, you know your rights, but you still know how it's going to go down. It can conduct your actions
Mm-hmm.
in order to prevent harm from coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in order for you to fight this in court. And I'm not saying all the time you get the fair justice you want in court either, because we know our system isn't fair. But at least now you're still there for your family. You still had your opportunity to fight in court. You can appeal it, or whatever the case is. You can make that decision now, because we know they're emboldened. They're emboldened by our current administration.
Mm-hmm.
They're emboldened about the actions, the activities that are happening in the community and in the world right now. They feel entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to hold as much power as we can until we can really effectuate change.
Well, Juneitha, I thank you so much. You know, we have to bring you back, and unfortunately, it's been cases like this. You know, you show such. Yes, it takes a special person, and that takes some real strength. Trust me. and I truly believe I must have remembered something that you had said for the situation that I had gotten in, because I knew what the outcome was going to be. And like you said, it dictates your behavior, how you respond, how you react
Yeah.
to things.
Yeah.
And we know the system is designed not for us.
Correct.
But you still should have your day in court to fight and to see your family the next day. You are an amazing, amazing woman, and thank you for shedding this knowledge with us. There's so much to think about with this whole Breonna Taylor. You've opened up a whole nother thought process, especially with Daniel Cameron. What's his name? Cameron?
I believe it's Cameron.
I don't even want to know his name right now. Yeah, I want to do some more research on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've definitely given us some things to think about. But definitely let people know how they can contact you, because
Sure. Yeah.
someone.
So, yeah, you can reach out. You can reach out to me via email, or rather my website. We'll do that, www.shambeelaw.com. That's SHAMBEELAW.com. You can reach me via telephone at 773-741-3602. And also follow me on social media at Shambee Law. That's on IG as well as Facebook and Twitter. So yeah, if there's ever any questions about anything that's going on in the community, going on with you, please feel free to reach out. I would love to talk with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I don't know if Breonna Taylor's family members, anybody out there will happen to see this, but our prayers are out to you. And
sure.
Yes, please show us the transcripts. Show us the transcripts. We would love to see what happened with that grand jury. What was presented to them. And the Black woman's life matters. We're going to have to come up with a whole new movement.
Exactly.
Black women's lives matter. Black women's lives matter. Mm-hmm. They matter. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Okay, you all, this is Malika, Evanston Live TV. I will put Juneitha's information in the description if you all are in need of some legal counseling. If you just have questions, like you said, she said, give her a call, email her, and you know, let's keep fighting for justice. And it's been beautiful to see communities coming together and fighting for justice like this. I guess that's been pretty much the only silver lining in all of this, is seeing people come together and fighting for what's right. So you all be safe out there. And yes, Black lives matter. Black women's lives matter.